Wait, are you
like
saying Sideshow isn't the best top tier pro?
No, somehow no. I mean, destroying Yaki might have made you think otherwise, right? But,
How are you?
oh, what's up, bro? Good. How are you?
Dude, it's been a minute since we've talked, but great to see you again.
Yeah,
great
likewise,
to see you.
Likewise, man.
Yeah. So I don't think that a lot of people actually know this, but not only being an Overwatch caster, which you're mostly known for, but you've been streaming a lot on Twitch recently, as well as kind of posting on YouTube as well.
Yes. So, well, I've got a lot of free time at the moment. So I'm just trying to,
right now, right? You're looking for gigs?
Yeah. So for the first time, I'm actually a freelancer. Normally, I was like contracted for a full year of Overwatch League, and then even if there wasn't games happening, I was, exclusive to the Overwatch League. So I was just not do anything, but also still get a salary, right? So that was nice. But that now, this year is different. I got paid during the season, and then afterwards, I'm off contract. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep myself busy, and maybe find a couple gigs here and there. Maybe go back to the league next year. Maybe not. That's the beauty of it.
What game would you cast if you didn't cast Overwatch?
I was getting off to a good start with Counter-Strike and League of Legends. I think I still needed like a few more years in both of those games,
A few more years? Wow.
Well, I mean, okay. CS, there was like a real ceiling, right? Because of all like the commentators at the time. But I did turn down offers from Riot in Europe and OGN for some Korean League of Legends. So I had the chances, but that was at the same time that our buddy Nate Nanzer hit me up. He's like, yo, what's good? Come to LA. So yeah.
And the rest is history.
It just happened that I went over to Overwatch instead.
Now, I don't actually know this, but how did you get into casting originally? Like, what was your, I guess, path to pro for being a caster?
a long and winding one.
Yeah,
so
as it is for most.
I was like a semi-professional COD 4 player. So in Australia, like that means I went to a couple LANs and won like $500 over my entire career of playing. To get to these LANs, we had to drive like 12 hours here. I was like a terrible player on a really good team, basically. I was like the Sideshow had a similar experience in TF2 actually. I was like
are you saying Sideshow isn't the best top tier pro?
No, somehow no. I mean, destroying Yaki might have made you think otherwise, right? But no, he was the same as. So I was like a shot caller captain type guy. Like in CS, how like there's a player in like pro CS games, it's like not fragging, but everyone's like, oh, it's okay, he's an IGL, that was me. Everyone's like, he's dropped a frag, it's fine.
It's the qualitatives that he brings.
It's the intangibles, Jayne.
Yes, it's the intangibles. I love that word.
I had to go to uni, man. I was actually scrimming 40 hours a week. Like, it was pretty serious because we're all sweaty gamers back in Australia. Yeah. So, wow. I'd get home from school or whatever, and then I'd scrim for 8 hours, basically. But I had to go to uni. I was studying engineering, so I didn't really have the time to do that. But I wanted to be involved still in the COD 4 scene in Australia, so I went and started casting the ladder matches. Because we had like a website that did our ladder in Australia called Cybergamer. Radio casting for 3 years, a couple nights a week, just because I wanted to still be involved, even if I couldn't commit the time to playing. So I was like a radio caster on this online radio station that played music during the day, and then in the evening it did gaming commentary. I didn't even know it would be a thing, but from there I just sort of kept doing it as a hobby. I probably didn't get paid for another 5 or 6 years, but then eventually, I did a couple of World of Tanks gigs randomly, and that's what got me brought out to Europe to work at ESL. And then I started doing League, Counter-Strike, all that other jazz. And then Overwatch sort of popped up while I was living in Cologne, working full-time for ESL, and then I ended up here. That's the abridged version anyway.
That's the abridged version. That's still crazy.
Bro,
and you finished your engineering degree as well, right?
I did, yeah. I actually came out with decent grades in the end, but like all of the aircraft maintenance jobs, because it was aerospace, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, aerospace buddies.
Yeah, exactly, right? I know. But all the aircraft maintenance jobs were offshored to like Indonesia and Southeast Asia from Australia. Like no one was actually doing aerospace engineering in Australia outside of like a couple gigs. So I got a job for 6 months, but I had an aerospace engineering degree. I designed a UAV, built it, flew it in my final year. So I came out there thinking like, yeah, this is sick. Like, I'm on the cutting edge. This is dope. I ended up working for a company that built stairways and like causeways and stuff for a fucking an oil refinery. And I was like, what? My job, I'd walk around and I would just like take pictures of pipes that were rusty and catalog them. And that was my job. And I was like, no, I quit. And I worked in a CVS for 2 years while I did side gigs for esports. And finally that turned into a job. But could have gone either way, bro. I could still be working in a storeroom at a pharmacy.
So before you actually came on, I was talking to chat because we were recalling all of your like best lines.
Oh god.
Now, do you prep those lines or are they improvised? Like,
no, I get lucky
what's your
with
method,
them.
I guess.
I think people
you get lucky with those.
Yeah, because people like remember
the
good ones, dude. But there are actually plenty that fall flat. But I say them with such a strong accent and so fast that like you don't even hear them half the time. So like there are for every quote that worked, there was probably one in which I get crickets and Matt's like, really funny, Mitch. Back to the analysis. Like,
real supportive co-caster.
Oh yeah, well, no, Matt is the bloke. That's how he sort of trained me, right? Not to go too cringe because he would just leave me in the deep end. Like there wouldn't be any. That was funny, Mitch.
No bailing you out or anything.
No, he just looked at me.
No like half laughter, just like that sucked.
Nah, he just fixed me with this intense dwarf-like stare, and I'd be like, okay, yep, on with the show then. I mean, the recent grand finals were exciting, right? The gameplay was fantastic, but I did actually pump stadium ambient noise into my headset while I was casting.
Really?
Yeah, because I was sat there and I was like, okay, I'm in my guest room.
That's so smart.
Casting grand finals, and like I want to be able to close my eyes and picture myself back in the Wells Fargo or something like that. You know what I mean? Or you know, or we're in the Barclays Center in New York. So I said, all right. So it actually helped me a little bit because there's just a quality to being in such a hallowed location like an arena with a crowd just filling it up, and it really helps you rise to that occasion. And I thought, well, this is still important. You know, this is still a grand final. This is still, one of the potentially most competitive grand finals we've ever had, and I need to capture the essence of what it was that helped me transcend my normal sort of level of casting in grand finals in the past. So I tried to go for actually, I think it worked. I don't actually know because obviously I've never done a grand final without the stadium audio now, but that's it. I think in the past, like even in like a pretty dodgy game, like there is always something to talk about. I don't think Overwatch is the kind of game where you have to manufacture too much. I mean, we found that out probably in between season 2 and 3.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like mid-broadcast. So like our focus groups have told us that they know more about Overwatch.
Like, we've been on the phones and we've got this feedback.
What kind of massive production do you have going on here?
Alfred, man the switchboard.
All right, now I can't stop shouting out your YouTube nearly as much because I think it's criminally underrated with how few people know it exists. So first of all, chat. While I'm talking, it's audio. You don't need to look at my ugly mug. Go and subscribe to Uber's YouTube channel while you're listening to this. But I've seen you've been doing some VOD reviews, so you've been doing some gameplay of your son, but you've also been doing some like VOD reviews as well, like of casting stuff. Yeah. So have you taught anybody else to cast previously? Like, have you been a casting coach kind of professionally? Has anybody that you coached made it into the big leagues, getting a paying gig? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, my first VOD review was of Brennan's Sideshow.
Oh, really?
Yep, it's on my channel. And you know what the best part of it is, Jayne? I take a giant steaming dump on Sideshow. I basically like it's old.
Is there a recording of this?
Yeah. It's on the channel. It's so okay.
Is it like?
Look, my YouTube channel is you might call it criminally underrated. I think it's criminally under-curated by myself, right? So
under-curated.
I think I could do a lot of work with that YouTube channel. Obviously VOD reviews are pretty niche because like there's maybe like 50 to 100 people around the world that really care about being a great esports commentator. So like obviously my target audience is kind of narrow, but if you want to see me fucking get down Sideshow's throat about like being bad at casting, then
yes,
there is it's like I think it's the oldest one. It's there in the VOD reviews playlist.
VOD review Overwatch World Cup Canada versus, is this like the original World Cup? Canada versus Netherlands.
Yeah,
this must have been the first World Cup because I wasn't involved in that.
Was the one that XQC played in? I think. Oh no, he's played in all of them. What am I talking about? I think it's the second one. I don't think it was the first one.
Yeah, no, I think it's the first one because
there you go.
Yeah, it's the first one. Rolf's in it.
Yep. So there's a ton of those. I've been experimenting, right? Obviously, I put a gameplay highlight up there recently, but I'm hard stuck plat, mate. So like obviously. I know full well.
It's about your personality, not the rank.
Exactly. So it is about trying to leverage maybe the way that I do things or the humor that I can provide. So maybe I'm trying everything right now. I've also got a short series on there where I take viewer submitted clips and cast them. and sort of do, it's called Ubershouts. I think there's 4 episodes up there right now. The idea is that people can submit their clips to me and they get commentated by me if they, provide me the image. So that's something I'm playing with as well, man. So I tried a bunch of different ideas, see what sticks. Discoverability is always the biggest challenge, getting people to sort of, want to go to a channel and watch it. So yeah, you're out there, give me a subscribe, fam, get in there.
What we have lined up today is that Evan has built a lobby of 12 people, all of them under 2,000 SR. So we're going to have bronzes and silvers. You definitely the usual caliber of the... so it's the channel, if you can't find it, is being linked in chat, but it's Ubershouts, all one word. Capital U, capital S. I don't think that really cares for the search.
Nah,
but yeah, Skylone and Evan are going to be in chat spamming that YouTube channel for you.
Yeah, you guys are fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been watching. You're already up 100 subs. So.
Let's go!
120 as of now. But
that's fantastic. Thank you guys.
So, yeah, that's it for today. So, I will give you the reins. We're gonna probably keep these guys around for like a best of 3. Sometimes we'll play 3 different maps. Like, do you like casting 2CP? Do you like casting, like what's your favorite game mode to cast?
I'm here for all of it, right? So, from a caster's perspective, we like control because it's a fundamental brawly style of Overwatch, right? It's less about set plays, less about timings. It's more about getting the most value out of the ultimates you have available to you and sort of, trying to, out-position and out-maneuver. 2CP for the same reason is also really good. Attackers really have to find out, especially on things like Volskaya, find out how they can sort of rotate into, good positions. We love a bit of King's Row as well. So, I mean, if it's up to me, I'd say start with control, then we should do hybrid, and then a 2CP to finish off, just to, if we get...
Sounds great. Well, let's do... We played... What's your favorite control? We played Lijiang earlier.
Okay.
Actually, we played Lijiang in Nepal, so those 2 are out because we used them earlier in the show.
I'd love Ilios.
Ilios? Yeah, let's do Ilios. All right, Evan, you still... Oh, you already gave me owner. Perfect.
No worries.
So we'll have you being the play-by-play, and I'll do the color. So as a color caster, what is my primary job?
So essentially what you want to do... So this is the best way that I can put it. A play-by-play caster is the what and the when.
Yeah.
And the color caster is the how and the why. Okay, so I will obviously be very much...
Hold on a second, I'm taking notes.
And you... That's okay. I'll be dealing with the present, right? Who's dying? Who's doing really well? What's the situation? And what's the game state? You'll be saying sort of, how did that happen? Why did it happen? And maybe what is the implications of this further down? You know what I mean? Like, you deal with ult economy. Maybe if a team, layered support ultimates in a certain fight, then you'll be mentioning like this is a result of what we saw earlier on. So you'll be working in the present and past tense a lot more, and I'll be working in... I'm sorry, no, it's past and future tense. Sorry, and I'll be working in the present tense. And I'll ask you questions a lot of the time to try and maybe prompt you on something. A color commentator might be given a question that he doesn't feel leads in a direction that he wants to discuss, so he or she, should I say, will sort of deflect
do a quick deflect or transition.
That's right, yeah.
So in terms of transitions, how do we pass it back and forth to each other?
So I will often use your name, sometimes by the cadence of my voice. You will know that I'm
shit, you're good at that. I actually got shivers. I got shivers, Uber. That... Wow. Okay.
So if I end on a downward inflection, often it can imply that, I'm going to have you talk. Normally, there's like a rough rhythm. So leading up to a fight is definitely colors area. Then as blood starts to be drawn, that's when play-by-play drops in. You can definitely signal to me that you're throwing by using my name. So I'll be like, and Jayne, that was an absolute mess of a fight. And I end on a downward inflection, not an upward one. So... unless I'm asking you a question, but you can eventually, as synergy starts to build up, you can sort of tell when someone's throwing. But I encourage all casters to begin with is just to use each other's name and try and make it clear that it's their turn to talk.
And that's the same way I pass it off to you, or is there any time if like a fight breaks out early? Is there any time where you're gonna like take control from me?
I mean, I will try not to talk over you at any cost. So I mean, there is if you can, like, I will usually wait for you. Sometimes I do it over Matt because I know he's going to finish anyway. Sometimes we unfortunately crash into each other because when we're in person, me and Matt use hand signals sometimes, right?
Really?
Yep, just to indicate. I would just point. We often just point to say that we're just...
Oh, just like a gesture. Not like semaphores or anything, but just like pointing at each other like, go?
Yes, so it's almost like, or if we get tangled up, we'll sort of point back at each other, or I will he will use a hand signal to imply that here's something he really wants to mention quickly. And so I will just sort of drop out really quick and let him talk by, quickly jabbing a point at him.
So cool.
That's why actually during COVID it's really hard to like assess how good caster pairs are because they're not in person. They can't see each other when they're commentating. With the exception of the grand finals where me and Matt had like a two-way mirror kind of thing going on with these tablets. So it looked like we were looking at each other in the virtual set because we were just looking at each other's faces in like a Skype call on the tablet.
Now, I've seen the actual casting screens that you use, especially when you're in person at events. So you can explain it better, but you not only have a feed because you're not like for this, we're going to be controlling our own cameras, but in an actual professional broadcast, you're getting the feed of like how many feeds do you normally get? It's
so
2, right?
It actually depends on the setup that we have. For the at-home setup, I was able to have it so I had what was happening on like what the observers were showing. And I also had a stats screen, which was just a very simple UI that was provided to us that let us see like the same stats you'd see when you press tab on your hero, basically all of those. So nothing too in-depth. And that was it. Back in the Blizzard Arena, there was a third screen that was a top-down map view. Basically, there would be an observer that was driving a top-down view, and they would just change it based on like if it was an escort map, right? It would have to change their view as the cart moved. But we this year didn't really have that. We didn't have the screens, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Final question before we kind of jump into this gameplay and just see how far this train can go. How does a caster kind of get used to like how do you practice on that setup? Because that setup is broadcast specific, right? You're not familiar with it when you actually start a broadcast. Especially when somebody's trying to become a procaster of their own. You're in an environment like we're in, where we are the observers and the casters. Right. You kind of don't. You're not in person, so you don't practice the hand signals. You don't have the extra monitors. How do you learn how to do it for real as a professional?
Great point, Jayne. I mean, casting like this is challenging because you have to understand commentating online like this is that the audience sees what the observer sees, but you have no way to spectate the spectator. So I can't actually, for example, if Evanescence in this case is going to be spectating him, or if you are, rather, I can't spectate what you're spectating. So I need to realize that when I'm commentating, I might be referring specifically to something that just isn't on screen as far as the audience is concerned. So we need to be a little bit more macroscopic with a play-by-play. For you as a color commentator here, Jayne, it's probably not going to matter too much because you are going to be trying to highlight things that the audience may not see anyway.
I will be talking about the how and the why, the past and the future.
Right. So
I'm remembering.
That's it. Spot on. So for me, I will have to, I will actually be using a free cam for this and not any first person because I could be casting something from first person that it just isn't on screen for you or our observers. So that's the challenge there. Obviously, it is possible to sort of practice this kind of setup. I mean, they're one of the observers for the Overwatch League, Peggy, or known as Moirai. They actually provide. I've seen them post it on their Twitter, actual VOD recordings of replays of Overwatch games. So if you don't have the replay viewer, you can't look at it like that. It's literally a video without cast audio that is just spectating Overwatch players playing, and you can just get it and cast over it, and it's not like you have to turn down the noise or anything like that. So I really recommend that as a resource. It's, again, criminally underrated. Yeah. And it's a great way to practice.
She worked for Elo Hell before she got picked up by the Overwatch League.
That she did. Yeah, that's right.
I've got a few hours, you could say, in the replay viewer. So if you if you start casting first person, I will be on that.
I'll drop you an audio cue if there's someone I really want to see. So, and I'll do this with the observers too. Subtly, I'll be like, I'll be interested to see what Keedle's doing right now, or whatever. So that's all good. I will try and stick free cam, but let's just have fun with it, man. At the end of the day, like,
let's have fun.
Every time I work with a caster,
you're going to do a control, a hybrid, and you said what was the third?
No, I want 2 CP for the third map.
You did 2 CP for the third map.
Yeah, buddy. It is a long road to climb ranks in the world of Overwatch, all the way from bronze to GM, just like one of those streamers that, purposely sort of de-ranks just so they can have a educational stream. But here we are in silver and bronze, if I'm not mistaken. I'm Mitch Leslie. I'm joined here by Jayne for what is going to be an absolute firecracker of a show match.
Thank you very much, Mitch. It's a pleasure to be here. And you are correct. We are going to be looking at a combination of bronze and silver players here in the match of the absolute century. We're going to see which players belong to be here or deserve to be here and which are just going to be starting their journey all the way to Grandmaster. And, maybe one or two of these we'll see pro in a year.
Absolutely, Jayne. Looking for those rising stars, the ones that really sort of seem to rise above their station, as it were. Those that can transcend the ties that bind in bronze and silver, and maybe show us a glint of that diamond in the rough. Our first map is going to be Ilios. Very exciting, of course, as we head to Lighthouse now, and our compositions here look extremely varied, Jayne. Anything stand out to you here as perhaps a little peculiar?
I think the fascinating thing here to me is that we're actually seeing 4 hit scans played here. Now, bronze and silver are not necessarily characters, or ranks rather, that are known for their accuracy. So it'll be very interesting to see. Bastion, of course, the stick out here, it's going to be interesting to see how good their aim is, but at least it's going to give them a little bit of extra HP at the cost, of course, at that hitbox.
We'll see the blue team, of course, now will try and play around Fedora Dev as much as possible. Give the Bastion as much defense. Echo seems to have been caught there. You see that straight away, the Reinhardt 2.0 gets in and involved. In the backline, you can see Keetle trying to give a little bit of slurp here. Maybe some more healing required. 2.0 takes a lot of damage, but survives. And now we'll see a trade in the middle of the map here. Look at those ultimates tick up. Keetle very close to a Coalescence.
Yeah, Keel's Coalescence is going to be an absolute massive ultimate here, especially if they can get it before the actual fight is lost, and that can give them the safety they need to actually rush onto that Bastion. Combustion, however, in this cleanup, he's not going to be getting that fast enough to turn the tide, and red team here, a good old 9-0, is going to be forced off to regroup, especially as Azala falls.
Jayne lost, definitely looking a little bit more confident right now. You saw Fedora Dev just took a quick sidebar to go and capture the point, as at least one of these teams have identified the objective that needs to be played around. Desort playing fairly close here to Echo, of course, the Reinhardt from 9-0, who needs to find a way to get out into the open and deal with his Bastion, because, Jayne, I feel like if the Bastion isn't answered, then 9-0 are going to have some serious issues.
It is going to be challenging. There's the Coalescence coming out there, but Echo on the flank is going to leave his team absolutely, completely exposed. That Shatter lands with Coalescence enough to keep them alive. 2 down, but that Bastion still in the backline. Well, I was going to say that he was still hammering away, but he's finally gets taken out as Shred the Gnar takes him out, but he's rezzed back up and could be a thorn in the side as Echo is trying to cap the point.
Yeah, the Bastion's still alive here, Jayne, but it looks like, yeah, Jayne lost, opting to back away there. The Immortality field from Izella looked to be pretty important dealing with that scrutiny of Bastion at long range. Shatter is available here for Echo, but he may not need it. Hister's already gone down. Graviton Surge catches the majority of Jayne lost, but 9-0 don't need to worry too much about the follow-up. Already cutting the enemy down to 50%. Izella gets caught there by Fedora Dev. He's actually able to find a double kill. This maybe isn't the way that Jayne lost thought it would go. 9-0 now in a bit of trouble on the point. Bob is thrown straight on in there, but Fedora Dev just gets to work him down, and 2.0 keeps the shield up. The Deadeye from Shred the Gnar finds 2, but it's just not enough. A McCree against the world left on the point, and Jayne lost will be back in control now at 39%.
Shred the Gnar on the side of 9-0 definitely tried to make that hero play with the High Noon, flanking all the way around on the side, and Fedora Dev didn't even realize the High Noon was there. Shred the Gnar managed to get that full charge to 100-0 that Bastion, so it really seems to be the 2 DPS players here, Shred the Gnar and Fedora Dev, who are trying to carry their teams. Fedora Dev on that Bastion, of course, going to be a little bit harder to dislodge, and he's not even using his ultimate, so not a big problem, but we'll have to see how this next fight rolls out.
Echo has a chance for a shatter here. 2.0 playing pretty aggressively, but the Graviton Surge comes in and the Immortality field doesn't quite cover the front line. Oh no! Izella, it's a disaster! Tries to drop the drone on the top of his team, but instead it pulls up a little short, and so do 9-0. It's 77-43. Somehow the Xayah Dax Deleter actually gets onto the point and triggers the overtime, but it's going to take a little bit more than that. Desort goes down. Amplification Matrix now being used by Izella, but a resurrect onto Desort brings the Lucio back here for Jayne lost. It's a big old window. No, it's a football goal on the point now, and in overtime, it looks like, yes, Jayne lost in the driver's seat. Fedora Dev is dominating, and has a chance here, of course, to use the tank configuration to seal the deal. Echo moves onto the point, still has that Earth Shatter, by the way, and was able to flip things back just in time, but here comes the Bastion, and he's mad. Xayah Bubble given to Fedora Dev as he tries to work down Echo's shield, and they get rid of the enemy Reinhardt. Still no Earth Shatter coming out from 9-0, and this is going to be a close one. Keetle drops down now, and it's just drips and drabs coming in here from 9-0. The Junkrat gets onto the point. Shred the Gnar. He's going to be in trouble, goes for a Riptire at point blank range, and he gets 2. That's unbelievable. Still 2.0 finds a late Shatter, Jayne, and that will seal the deal. There'll be a couple of attempts at stall, but that is all that can be done here for 9-0. Echo can't even touch the point.
And that's going to be the first round going the way of Jayne lost. Now, some very critical ultimates out there from 9-0 were not used. Actually, probably one of the main gore themes that I'm going to point out here as the color caster is the usage of ultimates, or rather, the lack thereof. There is no usage of ultimates. Fedora Dev had their ultimates for the vast majority of the point, or the vast majority of the fight. Now, obviously, Bastion doing more damage in that deployed form, so they don't always have to use it. But some big ultimate opportunities were available to multiple of these players, and sometimes, you know, you just gotta press Q to start getting that value there. You know, it is an ultimate ability. It's gonna give you the highest value of any of your cooldowns. And definitely, if 9-0 wants to start winning, they're going to have to start using those cooldowns.
Jayne, great point about Bastion maybe having a higher damage output during his Sentry form because, you know, dealing with a Reinhardt shield, you're actually better off being in that deployed mode instead of having a lower rate of fire and thus as tank Bastion. But right out of the gates again, this time Fedora Dev opts for the Mei pick now. Looking to cause some problems here for 9-0 when the fighting gets up close and personal on the point.
Yeah, this is going to be a big one. It's not the worst map for Mei, but especially if 9-0 tries to push onto the point, one nice wall here can separate them and make it easy pickings for Jayne Lost, who are looking for their quick 2-0 here on Ilios.
Shred the Gnar deals with 2.0, who was a little bit too far forward. Now the fight moves to the right-hand side of the map. Now over the edge goes Daxter Leader to Swordkiss and Tinnitus, and a boop to match. On the point there is Gravius. He's actually knocked out of his biotic field there, and Keetl's desperately trying to keep the Soldier 76 alive. He walks away from the immortality field provided by Izella, but he's still safe because Shred the Gnar is racking up the kills. Fedora Dev is down, and Jayne Lost are forced off of the point, only getting 19%. Jayne, last round, we saw him find 2 kills with a Riptire at point-blank range. Maybe he'll be looking for more here as Gravius goes down. It's going to be a tactical visor coming out from Combustion. Keetl already falls, forced to try and dump power into, and that is an insane move. Dezort knocks the entirety of 9-0 outside of the range of that immortality field, means that Combustion can work Echo down. What an impressive combo. And the best part is it wasn't even a Lucio ult. A boop Jayne gets a huge brace of kills for Jayne Lost.
Knocks them all into that sightline for Combustion, and of course you're seeing those ultimates once again. We talked about it, but look at the ultimate. Basically, Combustion is the only person who has used their ultimate in recent memory, and we're walking into a fight with 11 ultimates, and he who presses Q first wins. I'm pretty sure that's law written somewhere, and let's see if it holds true.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see these starting to be used. Already, though, the Gravitic Flux is off the table now. It's going to be a Riptide from Shred the Gnar. Fedora Dev. Oh, great juke. Goes into Ice Block and avoids being blown to smithereens by that Riptire. 2.0 drops in from the high ground and a lot of pressure on Gravius now. And yep, that defense matrix right in his face means the Soldier gets absolutely no value. I don't really know how some of these players are silver bronze, but that's fine. I digress. As Daxter Leader tries to find a way in from the high ground, but it looks like Jayne Lost are in control.
Here is a great combo coming out. The Blizzard and the Bomb, and they use Q. It finally works out for them. Gravius is trying to, you know, the 1 Q, and then it's just raining ultimates as everybody activates. Primal is being activated as well from 2.0 to make sure that they can survive. Not only survive, but also finish off Gravius before retreating. A great counterplay, and actually going to pick up a second kill on Dax the Leader before retreating back to the team. And Jayne Lost so far in a commanding presence here. You know, they were on the defense. There was no need for them to ult first, but when they had that, they were ready to counter. And is there gonna be a touch?
Gravitic Flux there. Dezort is able to use a sound barrier though to keep his team alive. Perfect response, by the way, when the Sigma holds you aloft like that. 2.0 going to move on to the point now, and with Echo out of the picture and the immortality field removed, can this self-destruct do anything? Oh, it gets Combustion. Still, line of sight broken for most of Jayne Lost, and Izella is frozen stiff. Fedora Dev trying to get in with the icicle finish, but the Mercy Beam too strong. Right now, Keetl keeping the team alive, but we are in overtime at 99-38. Izella and Echo, though, stand up tall, and it's going to be Hister having to head for the hills. 42% now, and 9-0, Jayne. They stay alive after an impressive bit of sustain.
Stay alive.
Get everybody's eyes on the Soldier 76 here, Jayne, because Combustion looked very good last time he went for this tactical visor. However, 2.0 has already gone down. There is a Diva desuited, though. This is a big window for Combustion to actually make this hit scan pressure connect. 2.0 got resurrected and immediately gets Daxter Leader, and Combustion surges ahead. No need, apparently, for the tactical visor here. A nice Helix rocket connection as we see the Reaper try and pressure Combustion. Now the point is pretty easily cleared off, and Jayne Lost have ultimates to spare in case of an overtime stall. But that looks increasingly unlikely there as Jayne Lost take the first map 2-0.
A very impressive showing from both teams. Shred the Gnar, I still think definitely the standout player for 9-0, but 2.0 was a little bit silent during that first map, but as he started to get more comfortable, those 2 primals very familiar with using that primal to stay alive, and then also not just using that to retreat or aimlessly waddle around, but actually getting high value out of that primal. And here's, of course, that high noon there.
Love it.
Picking up that Bastion. So did actually spot it and try to get away, but excuse me, it is going to be a battle. Shred the Gnar, you know, Fedora Dev, definitely less of a presence, I suppose, or a talking point when they were off the Bastion, but 2.0 picking up that mantle and leading Jayne Lost to the win.
So Jayne, answer me this. How do you feel right now?
Pretty good. So the one thing that I wasn't quite sure about, and I've always kind of casted as like, you know, a streamer, I am not very held to really high standards when I'm doing my own casting. But so the question I had is that, like, occasionally, you know, our pattern got flipped where it's like, I started having like a segment during a play-by-play. Do we just like roll with that, or do I do
just roll with it?
Very quick?
Your play-by-play was fine. That was like, honestly, like, it was very good. Like, when I was watching from free cam, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, Jayne is covering the bases that sort of need to be sort of dealt with right now. The worst thing you can do, right, is rush yourself and then just like awkwardly throw, you know, the point. Like, I obviously, you know, I can handle it if I get dropped in color for a bit. You know, that's totally fine. I think, you know, you yourself having played the game for so long, having looked at the game, you know, so much, and myself obviously having a fair few years behind the commentator's desk, like, you know, we can have a conversation about all the stuff we've seen, and there can be a blurring of those lines, right? This is more like I'd say an intermediate sort of aspect of casting to sort of involve it. If we can just jump the gun and get there, then that's totally fine, right? It's kind of nice that we don't have to, like I said, you know, the best part is that even if you do sort of play by play, you can mid-fight, you can say, oh, it's looking like things are starting to get to fever pitches. You know, it's like a 4v4 situation. You know, you can throw mid-fight if you want. I did it to you a couple times because I'm like, well, okay, there's still a fight going, but I'm talking a lot. And honestly, like, you know, I'll take a breather, get Jayne involved a little bit, and then we can have that back and forth. So this is what me and Matt also do. You notice he will do play-by-play. You know, ultimately, Overwatch is a game where you don't get to choose when this stuff happens, right? It's not like Valorant where you know you have like 20 seconds before a round starts to talk about that stuff, and then like the time it takes to get a set play going. Overwatch doesn't care about your plans. Like it really doesn't.